Good morning, Algebra 2 students. How are you this morning or afternoon, I guess, whenever you are watching this? Welcome to our second week of digital school. I hope it's going well. There's a few of you I've been trying to check in with. I hope you can get a hold of me or I can get a hold of you. You might not be doing your daily check-ins or your homework's not coming through right, or I need to check in with you on that. So please be looking for emails from me. Please be checking in on different ways or responding to me, please. With today's lecture, there is a Google Doc attached to it that is something that you can't edit. It's just if you want to draw what I'm about to draw and maybe have like a realistic size of it. If you don't really care about being precise, you can just draw these in your notes. But one other thing before I move on, and I believe I put it on Classroom, as I have been getting homework from Algebra 2 and from geometry and everything else. I should have thought of this like the second or third day last week, but as it was coming in, I was like, oh, I can handle this. But it is going to make it a lot easier for me. I've been getting some homework on Classroom, which is perfectly fine. Some of you have been telling me Classroom doesn't allow you to upload it for some reason, and I'm not sure of those glitches. I'm not sure if it's just something you're clicking, and I'm not trying to blame you. I totally am fine with getting it through email. But if you email me specifically, because Classroom, it uploads it right where you want it to the section it belongs to. If you could please, even though I know your name, even though I know what class you're in, because you are also emailing me sometimes twice in one day because you were working on the homework the day before, but today's homework might be kind of short, would you please make sure that in the subject, if you are emailing me your homework, in the subject, you write Algebra 2, and then like today's homework is homework 7.4. So if you're going to be emailing me today's homework in the subject, it would say Algebra 2, homework 7.4. Once again, I know who you are, but it just makes it a little bit quicker acknowledging that it's the 7.4 homework, because if I have to like look up your email, then look up what section it was and all that stuff, please make sure you label the subject with Algebra 2 and then the homework section. So as far as your check-in point goes, today you are going to email me, and your email will just say March 23rd. That's what today is, March 23rd check-in. And it will say, Miss Jabs, I have always been trying to submit my work on Classroom. That's how I continue to try to do it. Miss Jabs, Classroom isn't working for me, and so I'm going to always email you my homework. I don't really care what way it is for you. Whatever works for you works for me. But please, your one and only check-in point today, as the subject, type in March 23rd check-in, and then type a little body that says, Miss Jabs, Classroom is working for me. Always look for my homework on Classroom. Miss Jabs, Classroom doesn't work. Please check for my homework through email. Just so I know what your plan usually will be for getting the homework in. So, guys, today's lesson might not be a very long lesson, but you might want to rewatch it. And if you're having trouble, please, I am sitting at my computer from 8:30 to 3:30 waiting to help you. That means you can email me and I'll get back to you. That means you can email me and maybe I can do a hangout video chat. Sometimes I go home right after school, but after school too, it was starting around 7 or 8. I kind of have to get back into the grading mode and school mode. And so I might be at my computer as well. And if you email me between the hours of 8 and 10, I might be able, to get a hold of you and say, hey, you want to talk right now online? And so please, please, please make sure you're reaching out if you feel like you're getting stuck. To me or any other teacher, guys, we're here to help you out. We're working through this. We know that you're working through it too, and we just want to be there for you. So like I said, today's pattern is a quick pattern. For those of you who have signed up to take the ACT, I don't even know what ACT dates are. I suppose if there'd be one in the next few weeks, it's probably been canceled or rescheduled. But the lesson that we have today, very, very often on ACTs, there's a question or two that they put on that has to do with what we're going to talk about. And if you know these patterns and if you remember doing it, and also usually in the reference guide for the for the ACTs, it's written there. These are quick, easy points on the ACTs, recognizing these patterns. So the two special triangles we're going to study today are a 30-60-90 triangle and a 45-45-90 triangle. That's the way we refer to them. They are triangles we see very often in geometry class, trigonometry class, and moving forward. If you take pre-calculus next year, you will have to have some of these patterns sort of memorized because we use them a lot in that class. So if you want to, like I said, trace off of that Google Doc I shared with you, that's why I put that there if you want to be really precise. If not, you need to draw one really big one near the top of your notes. And this is going to be the one that I write this very, very, very special pattern on. This pattern you need to have memorized and things like that. But if you want to draw, and I have a whole bunch here drawn just so we can go through a few examples. But every time I do an example, I'll use one of these. I'm not going to do more than 5 then. And hopefully we'll realize the pattern by then. Some of you might remember it from last year. But every single time on a 30, 60, 90 triangle, one of the angles has to be labeled. And I know they might be kind of hard to read, but all of the angles on these triangles are labeled as either 30 degrees or 60 degrees. Because it is a right triangle, that automatically makes the other one, like in this one would be 30. You don't need to mark that in. This one would be 60. Okay? Please remember, across from the shortest side is the smallest angle, or across from the smallest angle is the shortest side. So in this very first triangle I have drawn right here, I am going to write a number that I randomly pick. It happens to be 5 for this first one. So if you would put the number 5 across from 30 degrees, and if you would think about what we've done the last few days now, that's opposite of it. I already said that. I'm pointing to the hypotenuse right now. If we were going to do this work, you do not need to write this down because, as you know, I've said this before, math class is all about patterns. And so we're going to study this pattern very, very quickly as Ms. Jabs changes things around just a little bit. Since that's the way we have it written, if you remember my little shortcut tip, it would be to switch those around. And so you would do 5 divided by the sine of 30. If you type 5 divided by the sine of 30 in whatever calculator you happen to be using, I am rather certain that you get an answer of 10. So in green right now, I'm going to write 5 on this side and 10 on that side. Now, remember, this is a pattern class. So I want you to think about something, and since there's nobody else probably around, usually in class I'd be like, don't give it away yet. But what do you know about 5 and then 10? How can you get from 5 to 10, maybe without typing that in? But just to be sure that always works, I am going to, in purple, write another number that's maybe like a random number on the side of there. It's the number 11. So if you would please write an 11 right there. But that means my green equation would only have to change one thing. It would just become 11 instead. And I know that's writing over the top of it. But if you would swap those two, once again, you would have 11 divided by the sine of 30. And if you hit enter on your calculator after that, you get 22. So would you please notice, if we are given the shortest side of the triangle, the hypotenuse will be, that is correct. The hypotenuse will be double that. So would you please go back up above where I said I want to have a 30, 60, 90 triangle that's kind of big. This is going to be our pattern. So on the shortest side on my triangle, that would be this one over here. Would you please write an X? We're going to pretend we don't know what that value is because it could be any number for any problem. Maybe it's the number 7. Well, if it's the number 7, to get the hypotenuse, you just double 7. 7 times 2. Oh yeah, so since I said 7 times 2, we're going to write 2x on that side. Now, if you look at my values in purple, that means the only thing I don't know down here is this side that happens to be opposite of 60 degrees, or again, adjacent to 30 degrees. That's the only leg I don't know. So we're going to use Pythagorean's theorem for a minute here to help us out. And we're going to do x squared plus, I don't know squared, equals 2x squared. Again, that comes from using this. Don't worry if this kind of confuses you a little bit. I'm just doing this so you can follow the process and know where it comes from. Plus, we've been doing some of this before, okay? When I have a set of parentheses squared without a plus on the inside, I just get to square each part. So 4x squared. Now, I know this sounds funny because there's x's in here and I have my question mark, but remember my goal this time is to solve for question mark. So I'm going to subtract that x squared from both sides because I want to get like terms together. And there's that hiding 1 in there. Over here they cancel. 4 minus 1 is 3. Thank you. So would you agree I have question mark squared equals 3x squared? But of course, I don't want to solve for question mark squared. I would like to solve for just question mark. So I would take the square root of both sides. But that means there's 2 parts inside of there, the x. Anybody know what x squared gives us? Oh yeah, x squared square root would give us just plain old x. But what about the square root of 3, guys? We've been working with that a lot. Can we do anything with the square root of 3? So it's written in kind of a weird order compared to the other one, but that's because I want to know that x is on the outside and square root of 3 is there. With this now, and going back to this pattern, you should be able to do this homework so fast. But please, if this is confusing to you, again, I am available on Hangouts. As soon as we know one side, we should very quickly be able to find all 3 sides without using sign, calculator, anything like that. So I know I was doing that here, but we're going to skip over that problem. And I'm going to write another random number on this next 30, 60, 90 triangle I had drawn. Let's make it the number 12. If the number 12 is right there on the shortest side, double 12, please, and that goes on the hypotenuse. 12 doubled is 24. Take the number that was on the short side. You're going to rewrite it on the medium side. But next to it, you have to write the square root of 3. Sorry, my number kind of got blended into the length of the side because of where I was writing. I apologize for that. That is it. You are done. So let's do another one. I'm moving all the way down here just because of the size of it. Let's pick a random number, 8. So if 8 is on the short side, what do I do to get the hypotenuse? Thank you. Double it. That gives me 16. And the other side, I'm going to rewrite that 8. I just write the square root of 3 with it. Please be careful. If you're given the hypotenuse, it has already been doubled. So let's say I put 20 on the hypotenuse. To find the short side, I now have to take half of it. But please remember, I use the number from my short side. So these two get the same number, okay? I'm going to write this one sideways so it looks a little bit better. That medium leg, though, gets the square root of 3 on it. So guys, that's how fast you should be able to do that 30, 60, 90 triangle. If you're unsure of that, please make sure you send out some sort of message to me. But the other special triangle we have to study is a 45, 45, 90 triangle. And I've already marked it a very special way. Since it is a 45, 45, 90 triangle, that means that it is isosceles and these 2 legs would be equal. That gives us a really nice shortcut for this one. And it makes it a lot easier for us to find the hypotenuse on this one. So if we're trying to find the hypotenuse on this one, and I don't know it yet, I'm going to take x squared plus x squared equals hypotenuse squared. I suppose I could have put an h there, but I put a question mark again. Does anybody know what x squared plus x squared is? Oh yeah, there's 2 of them there, so that's a 2x squared. So I would get 2x squared equals question mark squared. Of course, I don't want question mark squared. I just want plain old question mark. So I'm going to take the square root of both sides. Once again, let's take the easy part first. What's the square root of x squared? Just plain old x, thank you. What's the square root of 2? Yep, just like before, we don't know it. So question marks equals x square root of 2. So the hypotenuse on the 45, 45, 90 triangle is x square root of 2. Now, as a reminder, and I know some of you have done this with me before just because of the way classes have gone, on this one, think about it. There's 3 different values for angles, and I have the square root of 3. On this one, since these 2 are the same, that's 1, 2. There are 2 values of angles, and so that's why I like to tell kids this one has a square root of 2. So once again, this should be a quick, easy pattern. Once you know the one side, copy it down on both of the legs. Copy it down on the hypotenuse, but the hypotenuse also has that square root of 2 tacked on it. So I've already picked some, again, my fault. I already drew a whole bunch of 45, 45, 90 triangles. And we know that because either the angles are marked or the sides are marked. But once again, because of this pattern, it should go pretty quick. And I know I've been doing this for a lot longer than you, but please don't make it harder than you have to. If I write the number 3 on the leg like that, that 3 gets copied down 3 times actually. 3, 3, 3. But remember, the hypotenuse is supposed to have the square root of 2 on it. And so, even though I wrote that 3 times, one of them gets switched up. And sorry guys, my marker wasn't working the greatest right then because I left this green is not working the greatest. So 3, 3, 3 square root of 2. All right? Honestly, that's how fast it goes. What's another number? 9? Okay. 9, 9. Those two are plain old 9s. On the hypotenuse goes a 9 with a square root of 2. And so let's do 2 more. And one of them I might make look a little bit more like the homework. Let's say we had something written on the hypotenuse. Now for today, to make sure we know the pattern, I made sure that if it was given like this, it had the square root of 2 on there. Think about it. The shortcut number is usually the number written in front of the radical. And so 12 is my magic number for this one. And so my 2 legs would be 12. Now, I want to make sure that you get full points for the homework. I know there's not a lot of work you have to do for the homework, but on the homework, lots of times, the computer will label the 2 parts as, like the 2 parts you don't know, as X and Y. So let's say you came across a homework problem and it looked like this. You have to solve for both X and Y. If this was problem number 1, on your homework, please make sure you write X equals 6, right? Because on our triangle, those 2 would be the equal parts. So on your homework, please make sure you write X equals 6. And also Y would be 6, but since it's the hypotenuse, would have the radical of 2 with it, the square root of 2 with it. So please make sure your homework very clearly states what answer was supposed to be 6 and what answer was supposed to be 6 square root of 2. So guys, again, the homework today should be pretty easy because you get to use these 2 patterns. I believe I put the first half of the homework using this pattern and the second half of the homework being this pattern. Please do not be afraid to call out and reach out to me if you have any questions. I'd much rather help you than have you start to fall behind. I hope you have a great day, and I miss seeing you guys every day. Please stay safe and hope to see you soon. Bye.